Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, Chapter 28. How a Little Burden May Grow to be a Grievous One. Story of a Man with a Monkey in his Hood, My Terrible Suffering, Concerning the Awful Panic that Seized upon the Culticorps, My Visit to the Deserted Ice Palace, and What Happened to Fufkuja, End of his brief but strange career, A Frozen Kiss on a Blade of Horn, or How Schneebull Chose a Husband, the Baron's Flight to the Icy Palace. Well, you can tell he's running around with a wrap, and they are headed up the stairs. Little Baron Trump is leading ahead, and I presume it's Schneebull and Gredus at the top, and Death of Fufkuja. The little Baron has a hood, and he is carrying the monkey, and they're on top of a pelt, and I presume that's Schneebull, but Schneebull is drawn more like a 8-year-old or something. Ah, little princess, how easy was it for thee to say that I would soon grow accustomed to the slender burden and note it no more. How prone are we to call light the burdens which we lay upon the shoulders of others for our own benefit. True, Fufkuja was not as long as a horse, nor as broad as an ox, and when in accordance with the king's decree the hood had been completed and the little animal was stowed away therein, close against my back, so as to get a goodly share of the warmth of my body, it seemed to me that Schneebull was right, that I would soon become accustomed to the load and note it no more, and so it seemed the second and the third day, but not on the fourth, for on that day the little load appeared to have gained somewhat in weight, and although I was quick to feign that it was not so, when Princess Schneebull quizzed me, saying, "There, little Baron, did I not tell thee that thou wouldst soon forget that Fufkuja slept upon thy shoulders?" Yet in my heart I felt that he really had grown a mite heavier. On the 5th day, Bulger and I were bidden to a merrymaking at the Palace of Ice, and as I rose from my divan to betake me thither, methought I was strangely heavy-hearted, and so did Bulger, for he made several efforts to draw a smile or a cheery tone from me, but in vain. Suddenly I realized that there was a weight pressing against my back. No, not a heavy weight, but a weight all the same. And then I whispered to myself, "Why, if I'm going to a merrymaking, I'll cast it off." And then I wakened from my deep abstraction and murmured, "How strange that I should have forgotten that Fufkuja was in my hood." And so I went to the merrymaking with Fufkuja nestled between my shoulders, and the Culticorps laughed at the little Baron and its child, as they called him, and drew near and raised the flap and peeped in at the curious creature within the hood. And when Fufkuja felt their icy breaths, he buried his nose in the fur and sighed and whimpered. Then for a moment, when the Princess Schneebull came and sat beside me, and praised me for my readiness to carry out her wishes, and thanked me so sweetly for my goodness to her, I forgot all about the little load laid upon me, and I ate the frozen tidbits from the royal kitchen. and laughed and joked with Lords Forstythes and Glacier Boy, just as had been my wont before Gelitis had decreed that Fuffcoojah should make his bed on my shoulders. And when the fete was over, your feet, and I stepped from the broad portal of the ice palace and looked up at the mighty lens set in the mountainside, through which the moonlight of the outer world was streaming in subdued but glorious splendor, I suddenly felt my legs bend under me. I staggered from right to left. I clutched at shadows. I was, it seemed to me, about to be crushed beneath a terrible burden. I quickened my pace. I broke into a run. I threw my arms into the air as if I would cast off the weight that was smothering me. And so I came to my lodging, puffing, panting, gasping. Why, what a fool am I, was my first word when I had got my breath. It's only little Fuffcoojah on my back, stowed away in my fur hood. I must be beside myself to have thought that a great monster was seated there, and that he was gradually pressing me down, crushing the life out of me by degrees, flattening me to the very ground, and I not able to escape from his terrible embrace or to squirm out from under his awful limbs, wrapped around my neck and body. All night long this monster was clinging to me and urging me to a faster pace, up and down, across and around. I knew not where on the bootless errands, ending only to begin again on searches after nothing, hidden nowhere, trying 1,000 lids and finding everyone locked, returning home only to go forth again, up and away and out on interminable highways, vanishing in a point far on ahead, with that grievous burden forever on my shoulders, growing heavier and heavier, till it seemed that I must go down with it into the dust. But no, it knew full well that it must not ride me to the death. So, when I was ready to drop, it threw off part of its weight to give me courage to begin again. When the morning came, my pulse was galloping and my cheeks were on fire. I could feel the blood pounding against my temples, and it was natural that my face should be crimsoned over with the flush of fever. Half in a daze, I walked forth toward the grand staircase leading up to the ice palace, when suddenly I was startled by a fearful scream. I halted and looked up, when another and another burst upon my ears. The terrified Koltykwerps were fleeing before me in every direction, shrieking as they fled. Fly, fly, brothers. The little baron is burning. The little baron is burning. Fly, brothers, fly. In a few moments, terror had seized upon every living creature in the icy domain of King Gelitis. They fled from me in mad haste, taking refuge in the distant caverns and corridors, filling the air with their wild outcries. No one being brave enough to halt and take a second look. My inflamed countenance filled them with such awful terror that they could only tear along and cry, "Fly, brothers, fly! The little baron is burning, the little baron is burning!" With Bulger at my heels, I turned and sprang up the staircase with the intention of seeking out King Gelitis and explaining the matter to him. But he, too, had fled, and with him every sentinel and serving man, every courtier and counselor. The palace was as still as death. I hastened through its silent corridors, calling out, "Schneebel! Princess Schneebel, surely thou art not afraid of me. Turn back, I will not harm thee. I am not burning. Turn back, oh, turn back. With this, I reached the throne room. Not a living creature was to be seen. The vast chamber was as still as death. I staggered to a divan, and pillowing my poor aching head on a cushion, I fell into a sound and refreshing sleep. When I awoke, I rubbed my eyes and looked about me, and at first I thought that I was still alone in the great round chamber with its walls of ice, but no, there on the divan sat Schneebel, and she smiled and said, in mock displeasure, "Thou art not a very watchful nurse, little baron, for in thy sleep thou didst squeeze Fuffcoojah so tightly against a cushion that he crawled out from thy hood and nestled in my arms." "In thy arms, Schneebel?" I exclaimed breathlessly, for I feared for the worst, and springing up, I drew aside the soft pelt which she had wrapped around Fuffcoojah, and there he lay dead. Poor little beast! He had been so happy to crawl into the arms of one he loved so dearly, and he had cuddled up closer and closer to her in search of greater warmth, but only to come nearer and nearer to a heart that could not warm him. And so the insidious chill of death, which bringeth sweet and pleasant drowsiness with it, had stole over him, and he had died. And Schneebel's tears, freezing as they fell, now showered like a gentle hail of tiny gems upon the little dead beast, no longer Fuffcoojah, but once again the little man with the frozen smile. Presently the Koltykwerps recovered from their senseless fear, and first, one by one, and then group-wise, they returned to their homes, King Gelidus and his court coming back too, to the fair palace which they had abandoned in their wild fright when the cry had gone up that the little baron was burning. Everybody was sorry to hear that Fuffcoojah had died the second time, and many were the frozen tears that dropped from the chilly cheeks of the Koltykwerps as they looked upon the little man with the frozen smile as he lay on the white pelt beside the Princess Schneebel. That day we bore him back to the icy grotto, and having laid him in the hollow molded by his body in the crystal block, it was closed again so skillfully by the king's quarrymen that no eye was keen enough to note where the cleavage had been. And the same uncanny glint was in his eyes, and when the Koltykwerps saw this, their icy hearts felt a cold shiver of satisfaction. For not only was the little man with his frozen smile back in his crystal cell again, but all the fears and dreadful fancies which his coming to life again had given rise to were past and gone forever, and peace and quiet and sweet contentment reigned throughout the icy realm of his frigid majesty. Gelidus, king of the Koltykwerps. Now nothing remained to make his cold heart crack with joy but to see his beloved child, Schneebel, make choice of a husband, and he had not long to wait, for one day upon entering the palace, she saw a youth lying at the foot of the stairway, overcome with sleep. In one hand he held an alabaster lamp, and in the other a new wick which he was about to fit into it, for the youth was a lamp trimmer in the icy palace of King Gelidus. And when the Princess Schneebel saw him lying there overcome with sleep, she stooped and kissed him on the cheek, and passed on without another thought about the matter, one way or the other. And the kiss froze on the cheek of the lamp trimmer where Schneebel had pressed it. Presently King Gelidus came tramping into the hallway with his breath white upon his beard, and he saw the youth lying there and the frozen kiss on his cheek, and he bade Glacier Boy scrape the delicate frost crystals from the youth's face, with a blade of polished horn. "What hast there, father of mine?" asked the princess, when she saw him bearing the blade of horn along so carefully. "A kiss, which someone pressed upon the cheek of one of my lamp trimmers, now lying on the staircase, overcome with sleep," replied King Gelidus, in ringing, icy tones. "Why, father of mine," exclaimed Princess Schneeboule, "now that thou speakest of it, I really believe the kiss is mine, for I recollect kissing someone as I entered the palace. I was deep in thought, but no doubt the youth pleased me as he lay there, asleep with lamp in one hand and wick in the other, and that lamp trimmer trimmed no more lamps in the ice palace of his frigid majesty, and wick in the other. And that lamp trimmer trimmed no more lamps in the ice palace of his frigid majesty, Gelidus, king of the Colticorps. No doubt he made Schneeboule a very good husband, and I'm quite sure that she made him a good wife. I would have been glad to tarry for the nuptial feast, but that was out of the question. I've stayed too long already." And Pjost, Doimoir, DGULU, I think is his name, is coming back out because it's getting quieter around here. No dogs barking.